So, guys, I want to review AEW Dynamite Title Tuesday, and I do want to mention that a couple of things. That I was very happy with the show because they accomplished what they need to accomplish, which is adding a couple of more matches to AEW Wrestle Dream. So we got we got Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks, $500,000 K match. It's official. That's gonna be Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher TNT Championship, and they also made official that's gonna be Don Callis family, Okada and Takeshita versus Brodito Part 2. And that's what I want to see from AEW because you have, your pay-per-view coming up. It's very disrespectful if you're like, okay, I'm going to throw in matches like the last week because it shows that you can't really plan. And I feel like the formula with a lot of AEW pay-per-views are really just like you may have like 3 matches that are like your main events, and then you may have other matches on the card. And that's that, really. But I do feel that, again, I'm happy that they're building matches. That's the goal of tonight, really. So it opened with a Joe and a Hangman promo. And, Hangman's talking about how he respects Joe. And Joe's talking about, like, how he lost who he was because he's been focused on the Death Riders, that he's angry and frustrated, that he just has been going after the title, really. And, that Hangman's not a real champion, and he made Hangman or things like that, really, So it's just kind of like, just nothing really special. It's just like words to have, really, because they're going to have a match. They need to just kind of create some, some smoke, really. The next match was Moxley versus Tomohiro Ishii. Like, Moxley won the submission. I wasn't really into this because you kind of know who was going to win. This just came out of nowhere. Don't they have a New Japan show coming up next week where Takeshita is facing Zack Sabre Jr., and you're going to have, like, a New Japan guy lose on your show who's holding a title? It doesn't make sense, really. They could have just had somebody else, really. But I'm not sure why they put Tomohiro Ishii in this situation. One of the matches of the night was the Demand versus the Hurt Syndicate. So Ricochet went through a table. He took a German suplex through a table. He saw MVP, and Ricochet, like, fight, Kane, Kendo Stick versus Kane. And they did a lot of really great stuff during this match. And I also liked it, too, because with the Hurt Syndicate, a lot of people were talking about this, that, yeah, they did a street fight. And I think, like, with them, they feel like that's beneath them. A lot of people think that, with professional wrestling, if you're a professional wrestler, you don't need to rely on the hardcore shit. So they did enough, like, hardcore stuff without, like, turning it into, like, combat zone wrestling. Like, you didn't see, like, 13 tables or glass panels. It was just, a street fight, but it really showed the physicality of Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley, and I think it was like Bishop Khan or whoever, like, he was also like one of those big guys that took a while to be knocked down, really. So it did kind of show a lot of that type of, you have a lot, you have something special between both teams, really, but you do have to get to a point where it's like, okay, what's the epilogue? Where's Ricochet gonna go? Where's the Hurt Syndicate gonna go? Like I said before, they should have a trios tournament. And like I said, a few matches on the dark match show, and like your quarterfinals of the dark match, the semifinals on the main card, and then the winner faces the Ops at Full Gear. And that should be the way to do it, really, because they have a lot of really great teams, and they have to do something special with it. You can even do something where the Hurt Syndicate are automatically in, and they get screwed over. Or you do something by the Demand, and then you have one more final match or something like that. But there's a lot that they can kind of do with this. But I do hope that there's an epilogue, not just, okay, well, they're gonna sit at home, really, because they have nothing. They have no plan for them. Jurassic Express. They were in a jobber match, meaning that they fought a bunch of jobbers, made Jack Perry look good. Jack Perry is, Tony Khan's, hornswoggle, basically. Son that's not a son, really. So, obviously he had a really good showing. His older brothers are Matt and Nick Jackson, brother with a younger brother without a younger brother. The other thing, too, is that there's a match between Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks for $500,000. And there's a couple things I want to say about this, that I am not really a fan of AEW when they do a lot of these money matches, because you have to have something special with that. So you could do something like, say, hey, we want $500,000. Hey, you know what? Hey, Tony Khan, we're going to spend $250,000 on ourselves, but we're going to give you this money back if you give us a tag team match, maybe anytime, anywhere. Or, hey, you know what? We're sick and tired of the Young Bucks. So we're gonna have a Jurassic Express match. We're gonna like decorate the whole arena. We're gonna decorate the whole cage with like, we're gonna get a green cage. We're gonna decorate it with all like this dinosaur stuff, or make it look like we're in the Jurassic period. Or hey, the Young Bucks are like, you know what? We want to buy back our EVP positions or something like that, really. Like, what are they going to do with the money? Or even if you had the Triangle of Madness or the women that they were facing, really, because they had a match over money. What if the Triangle of Madness bought the Blood and Guts cage, So that's what you have to do when you have, like, these big money matches. Or you can say something like, hey, we're going to take $5,000, we're going to donate it to the St. Louis, Fireman's Fund, or we're going to donate it to the St. Louis, Stop Crime or whatever. So that's stuff that you do. The next match was O'Reilly versus Fletcher. Really great match. A lot of back and forth. Kyle O'Reilly does like a senton off like the ring apron. He hits Kyle Fletcher with the dragon screw. Kyle Fletcher does a lot of really great moves. I'm proud of Kyle Fletcher because when the crowd was chanting Kyle and other things like that, he behaved like a professional wrestler this time. He knew he was a heel. He knew he had to ignore it or tell the crowd to shut up and whatever, really. But he chose to be a professional wrestler because if he wasn't a professional wrestler, he'd be like, well, even though I'm a heel, I'll have fun with the crowd and I'll just ham it up with them. You don't do that. That's not being a professional wrestler. That's being a mark. So he behaved like a professional wrestler. They're doing Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher. I'm happy that they're doing this match. We could obviously see that this was coming, but again, another match added to the card because Wrestle Dream is not a good show if they don't add matches, until the last week, really. I mean, don't add matches to the last week. I mean, don't save all your matches to the last week because then that shows like you're throwing shit together. The next match that they did was Mercedes versus Lacey Lane. I was very happy with this match. Like, Lacey Lane did a hell of a job. This was a very 50-50 match, meaning that it looked like it could go either way. But, Lacey Lane, like, kind of has a Pirates of the Caribbean thing going on. And then the other thing about, which is no problem, really, but also, too, this is where Mercedes needs to be, and this is the best way to use Mercedes, is that she should be 50-50 with the majority of the female wrestlers, but just a little bit better, really. You don't turn her into a Brock Lesnar where she's, like, doing something like throwing everybody outside of the Royal Rumble ring, or she's being undefeated and getting easy wins on people. Like, unless it's like a jobber or whatever, really. But there are some wrestlers where it has to be 50-50. And they did that with Lacey Lane because there's something, because, like, again, that Pirates of the Caribbean type of look, all that really colorful hair. What if you made her like a pirate? What if, she was just, that kind of like that tropical girl type of thing, really. That island girl type of thing. Because sometimes when you have wrestlers, you got to think about, if there's something to do with their personality or what they can do. Really. Like there's this woman in Top Flight, I believe, if I remember, like, and she's holding around like those light sticks that people hold on the runway. So that's something really. Like sometimes, or Tekla is the toxic spider. She does like the spider move and everything like that, really. So sometimes with wrestlers, you got to think about a character, or you got to look at their limb and be like, hey, maybe if you did this thing, that thing, type of thing, really. That's kind of cool, really. I do think that, and as I said, they didn't bury Lacey Lane. You had a good showing of her. Maybe one day she could beat Mercedes. But this is where she needs to be. This is what Mercedes needs to do, really, because there has to be a day when you have to nerf Toni Storm, Mercedes, and Athena. Because if they're holding up the women's division, the problem is you're saying that we can't rely on anybody else. They also announced that Statlander versus Toni Storm, but I believe they announced that a week ago. But they had a promo for that, nothing special. They just a reminder that that's one of the matches. Another thing that I'm a little upset about is that they should have matches for women, more matches for women. Like they could do something like, as I said, like do 2 matches for the trios, and then you have a semifinals, and then the winner of that will face the champions. Will face the trios champions at Full Gear. And then you can do something like have 3 matches. Like you can have 3 women from the Blood and Guts, and 3 women on the babyface team, 3 women on the heel team, and 2 of the matches are on the Dark Show for Wrestle Dream. And then it's like, and then whoever gets the win on the main card, really, their team gets the advantage in Blood and Guts because it's as I said, it starts with 1-on-2, 2-on-3, 3-on-4, 4-on-5, then 5-on-5, really. So, this is how we build matches. This is how we do the right thing for AEW. This is how we have matches that matter on pay-per-view and other things like that. If the winning team loses and they have a disadvantage, you may have that girl that's like, oh, well, I fucked it up for my team. I'm going to really lay it in there. I'm really going to fight like a crazy bitch, really. And I don't care if I die in the ring, really. I'm going to fight to the death, really, because I need to do something for my team. Like, there's always things, there's always emotions and powerful things you can, heart-wrenching things that you can incorporate. Because remember, professional wrestling is a thriller. So you have to have all that shit, really. The next thing is that you had Okada versus Brodito. Best match. This is like the match of the night for me. Definitely, as I said, Takeshita really needs to have a large pay raise. Like, he made Anthony Bowens look good, and he made Brodito look good, even though they also do a lot of really great stuff, really. So I really want to see the rematch. I want to see this be like a 30-40 minute banger. This could be like their Ospreay Bryan Danielson. I think they can do a lot in this match. They can tell a really great match, like a 40-minute tag team match, like the best tag team match ever type of thing, really. With a lot of near falls and a lot of really cool shit. Really. There's so much that they can kind of do. So I hope they do that. And I would love to see Okada and Takeshita as tag team champions, because with Brodito, they've done a good job, really. But sometimes you need some surprises. So you give it to Okada and Brodito for like a month, maybe at Full Gear. You give it back to them. They have like a steel cage match, or you have another stipulation, or a 2 out of 3 falls. They lose that. Then you have Okada, Takeshita, Continental Classic. Then you have Takeshita win, retire that title, and say, hey, maybe I can cash this in for a championship. Then you do Hangman versus Takeshita or something like that. Like, there's a roadmap that you can kind of set up, really, with this. But I do think that, you got to get to the point of saying, hey, maybe we can do some surprises. Maybe we can take some titles off of people for a while. I was a little worried because after that, Brodito, they were having Bandito was kind of doubting himself, and he was kind of like, very like, it's like he lost his self-esteem from losing the match, really, and Brody King was hyping him up, really. So I kind of feel like maybe Brody King might turn heel. Something tells me that they may do that with him. I think he would make an excellent heel, but the problem is that there's way too many heels in AEW. There's not a lot of single baby faces. Like, it's really just Mark Briscoe and Eddie Kingston right now, because they have a lot of singles matches. But you need more people. So I hope that doesn't happen, really. But I do kind of hope that there is a day where Brody King should turn heel. There's a day that he should be in the World Heavyweight Championship picture, but it's not right now, really. And I think you can have a lot more banger tag team matches, and then you can get to a point where maybe you turn him heel in it, Bandito versus Brody King for the ROH Championship, and then maybe he tries to be a double champion, the ROH Heavyweight and the AEW Heavyweight. That could be an interesting direction. But also, you need more baby faces who are going to do that. The next thing is that you had Pac and Orange Cassidy. All right match. It was really good. A lot of people are saying that Pac must have took some steroids because he looked like Macho Man Randy Savage without all the tan. But, you did a table spot. Okay, I'm okay with it. But then you did that thing, too, where they went outside the ring. They did a pile driver in the audience. And then they're outside for more than 10 seconds. The referee did a delayed 10 count. Stop doing that. When people go outside the ring and they do shit outside the ring, you have to either disqualify them or do the 10 count. And actually, it would help AEW a lot, because then you're like, okay, the match did not end with a clear finish. We can do a rematch. Or, hey, we can have other bullshit happen, and it makes sense because now we went from a match to anarchy. And then the show ends with Darby Allin almost throwing a Molotov cocktail at Jon Moxley. So I really know that they're going to play with fire and other shit like that at the show. But I'm also a little worried in a way, because when you get to the point where we're throwing a Molotov cocktail at somebody and other shit like that, this is when it turns into Power Stone. Power Stone was a video game, and it was like you grab anything anywhere and you throw things. So now you may get to the point where it's almost like, how far do you take things with Moxley and Darby Allin? Is this going to turn into ECW meets Combat Zone Wrestling or Game Changer Wrestling, where it's like you're going to have a scaffolding match, they're going to set each other on fire, and I think they're going to do it this time. So it's almost like what are you getting out of their feud? And also, this is a little bit of repeat mode. Like I said, what I would have done was I would have done Bryan Danielson and Darby versus Pac and John Moxley, or David Garcia and John Moxley. You have that match, give everybody a break for the hardcore stuff at Wrestle Dream, and then, at Full Gear, you may do an Inferno match, or that's when you have the I Quit match, just because you need to have a bit of a pause. Because if you always put John Moxley in extreme shit, really, he becomes like Nick Gage or New Jack or the Dudley Boys with the table. Like, it's a good visual, but it's repeat mode, So a lot of the matches were really, really good. And I really enjoyed myself watching the show. I think that, I would give it like maybe a B+, in my opinion. I do think that, I'm not a fan of 2.5 hour shows. I want it to be 2 hours. Next week's a 3-hour show, and they're doing that stupid ass thing of 2 hours of Dynamite, 1 hour Collision. Just call it 3-hour Dynamite. Cancel Collision for a week. The other thing too is that I feel like they're going in a great trajectory for Wrestle Dream. I think the issues of the show is that I really didn't have a lot of issues. I did think that I'm not a fan of 2.5 hour, 3-hour shows. They feel a little too long for me. Moxley Tomohiro Ishii, that didn't need to happen. Why did you have that match? I think every other match kind of made sense to me. And then I also will say that I think as an issue, they could have done more of the trios title, and like maybe they could have had a trios match, or they could set up other matches. Like it seemed like the match they set up, you knew were going to happen really. So what if you had, another woman come out like Willow Nightingale or somebody else come out and challenge Mercedes? What would happen if you set up like that match I was saying that should happen at Wrestle Dream, where you have like three women's matches, and whoever gets like 2 out of 3 wins, they get the advantage at Blood and Guts. What about Anthony Bowens and Max Caster? What if they say, hey, you know what? We're gonna have we're gonna do a match, and it's gonna be 2 members of Don Callis' family or whoever really, type of thing really, or it's like a match with like another FTR, since Edge and Christian are not going to be there. Or what about Edge and Christian and FTR? Like what there could be more things, there could be more hype, there could be more pizzazz to this. But I think that they're going in a really great direction. And like I said, it's not just matches, it's matches and good storytelling. So I like how they have a mix of both. And if they need to make AEW 3 hours just to kind of have that good mix of matches and promos and people caring about shit, then that's what they need to do really. If 2 hours is too much of a time constraint, they can do 3 hours and just do the best job with that 3 hours, really. And like I said, do the best job. Have more talking, have more people speaking. And then the other thing I want to say, too, is that you interviewed the Death Riders and a few other people, and I like how they're giving other people a chance to talk, like Pac, Yuta, and other people, because even though they're not the best talkers, you need to kind of see who can talk and who can't talk, because that way you build to the next level. So I do think it was a show in the right direction, and that's cool.